So in this video, I want to talk about fear. Hello? Is somebody there? Now, of course, I'm not talking about that kind of fear. I'm not talking about the kinds of fear where it's like ghosts or something haunted or some kind of paranormal activity. I'm talking about the kind of fear that you're likely to face if you're learning Spanish. And that is the fear of looking silly in front of other people. And this week, I had a personal taste. I had a reminder of what it feels like to feel really embarrassed in public. So what did I have to do this week? This week, I was interviewed on the radio in Spanish. It happened on Wednesday, and I remember the feeling now. It's that kind of feeling where your palms are kind of sweaty and you've got that feeling in your throat, or it's maybe butterflies in the stomach. But anyway, let me tell you the story of what happened last Wednesday.
Hola Andrew, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, Borja. Estoy bien. ¿Y tú, qué tal?
Muy bien, muy bien.
La verdad es que estoy un poco nervioso.
No, hombre, no. Va a ir todo muy bien, ya verás.
¿Dónde estás?
Estoy en la radio.
En la radio. Vale. ¿A qué hora tengo que estar ahí?
Pues si puedes estar aquí sobre las 4:20 o algo así, genial.
Genial. Bueno, ya estoy de camino, así que nos vemos pronto.
Perfecto, fabuloso.
Ok.
Nos vemos en un ratito, Andrew.
Ok, adiós.
Hasta luego.
So I think emotions are a funny thing. I mean, going to this radio interview today, I'm very nervous. Let's keep it real. I mean, it's funny because I've been doing podcasts and I've been recording videos and I've been putting myself on the internet for nearly 3 years. But something about live radio that, I don't know, it's really scary. But I know this isn't like a foreign concept. This is a big hurdle in language learning that I'm surprised how little people talk about. I'm yet to see a student that hasn't at least had some. Most students have moments where they're afraid or they're nervous or, I don't know, just making mistakes in public. And I guess making mistakes on the radio is just a pretty intense version of making mistakes in front of other people. So it's probably why I'm just feeling these nerves. Logic aside, I can logic it away and say, well, you know, there's no inherent danger in what I'm about to do. But I think it's just something that sometimes is difficult to control. So Borja is one of the hosts of the radio station that I'm going to be interviewed on today, and the program, the show that he runs is about technology, really, and he just thought it'd be a good opportunity to talk about real fast Spanish and what I've been doing with the website and with YouTube and Facebook and all the different areas that I'm sort of talking about and teaching Spanish. And he thought it'd be interesting, sort of from, I guess, to share what I've been learning with the Spanish community that listens to his radio station. And you know, there's this slight twist of irony that sort of comes to mind, and that is that Borja and his partner Cristina, they're both into radio and journalism. And I did an interview with Cristina and Borja for the podcast. So I'll have a link below the video to the interview that Cristina did. It's probably I don't know. It's a piece of work, I guess, almost a journalistic piece of work that I'm super proud of. Just because Cristina was incredibly open, and I was quite happy with the result, how it turned out as an episode. So again, I'll put a link below. But the irony is, and the reason I'm bringing it up is, in that interview, Cristina was talking about her fears of moving from Spain to Australia and coming here to live. She was talking about, you know, not knowing the language, not knowing the people, and not knowing if she could find work. And you know, they're obviously common fears that come up, and now sort of in a bit of a twist of, I don't know, strange fate, I'm now going to be interviewed on Borja's show. And now I'm feeling the fear. Hace mal tiempo hoy. Llueve. It's raining and it's really, the weather's not nice today. I don't know if that's a bad omen or not. But hopefully it won't hurt me too much with the traffic today. I'll be able to make it to this radio interview on time. I guess that would be even more embarrassing than making mistakes on air. There's just a massive traffic jam. It's the last thing I wanted to see when I've got 20 minutes to get there, and it's probably 20 minutes away without a traffic jam. Look at this. Incident on the Westgate Freeway. Expect long delays. Oh dear. This is not good. This is not good. So Borja said get here at 20 past 4. It's currently 4:46. Hopefully I can still make this interview on time. So this looks like the place. 92.3 FM. Here we go. Alright, so it turns out that I actually arrived on time, and I've got Borja here, my friend. This is the studio where we're going to be recording. Borja! So, we're going to be starting in about 5 minutes, so we've got to get ready.
Esto es para ti, por si quieres tener una idea de lo que vamos a ir hablando.
Vale.
¿Vale? Vale, ¿te quieres sentar por allí?
Gracias.
Nada. Luego podemos grabar lo que quieras. ¿Vale?
Sí. Borja. ¿Bien? Ya hemos terminado, ¿no?
Ya hemos terminado.
¿Cómo fue la entrevista?
La entrevista ha sido estupenda. Nos hemos entretenido muchísimo, hemos aprendido un montón de cosas contigo, Andrew. Y ahora esperar a ver el vídeo, ¿no?
Sí.
Lo buscaremos, realfastspanish.com.
Claro.
Y veremos el vídeo.
Muchísimas gracias.
A ti por venir.
So that was the story about what happened to me last Wednesday. It was a real honor to be interviewed on the radio station, and I really appreciate Borja asking me to go on there. But at the time, I was almost cursing him because I was really feeling the nerves before the interview. But this is really critical, and I wanted to record the event and talk about some of the things that I took away from that situation. And so the first thing to think about is this idea of logic. I mentioned it earlier when I was driving the car. I talked about maybe logicking away the fear. Now, of course, emotion is very different to logic, but there's this wonderful TED Talk done by Chris Hadfield, the astronaut. And here's a little reminder if you don't know who that is. He's the guy that did this.
This is ground control to Major Tom. You've really made the grade.
Now, in his TED Talk, we asked these two questions, which I thought were incredible questions, and they were this. What is the most dangerous thing you've ever done? And then the second question, what's the most scared you've ever been? For me, probably one of the most dangerous things I ever did was get in the back of a car with a guy that I sort of grew up with that was probably doing pretty dangerous things behind the wheel, was sort of going 200 kilometers an hour, which would be 120 miles an hour, through the back streets of these country roads near where I grew up. That's probably the most dangerous thing I've ever done. Now, the most scared I've ever been probably wasn't that moment. So the question would be, what's going on in our heads? What is it that makes us really poorly judge with our fear emotion things that are actually not dangerous for us? And for me this week, I definitely would say that I was more scared of going on that radio show with Borja than I was getting in the back of that car that day many years ago. So the way to think about it is to consider the logic of that situation. Why is it that we're more afraid of things that aren't potentially going to hurt us? Now, all that being said, there's still this component of emotion. So even if you can logically say, oh, this isn't actually that dangerous, I shouldn't really be scared, that doesn't remove the emotion. It's still gonna be there. So what can you do about it? Well, the tip that I would give here, and the one thing I want you to take away from this video, is this. Our emotions are more intense when we're not well rested. Let me give you an example. I know for me that it's sort of, it's one of those things that guys don't cry, right? Like, as a man, should I really be allowed to cry? Well, I can tell you this, the times in the last few years when I've actually cried as a result of something that really wasn't that big a deal was when I had little to no sleep. Think about it. When was the last time you got very little sleep? How were you that day or that evening after the night of next to no sleep? Were you delirious? Would you get that feeling when you're laughing too much? So whether it's fear, whether it's sadness, or whether it's just general being in sort of a delirious or happy mood, emotions are more intense when you haven't rested. So what did I do to prepare for the interview on Wednesday, knowing this ahead of time? Number one, I made sure that I got a really good night's sleep. And then number two, I actually made a promise to Borja that I was going to go on the radio station. And this is the second tip for overcoming your emotions of fear. So if you are afraid to make mistakes and you are afraid to use your Spanish, try to put these two things in place. Number one, make sure you get a good night's rest. And number two, try to find someone that can hold you accountable to push you forward even though you don't feel like doing it. And this is what happened with me this week. I promised my friend Borja I was going to go on that radio station. And because I made this promise, I didn't want to let him down. So despite the fact that I wasn't feeling like going on the radio that day, I still did it anyway because I didn't want to let Borja down. Now, if that promise hadn't been made, maybe I would have let my fears stop me. I would have procrastinated and I would have tried to get out of it if I could. But because I'd made that promise, I couldn't do it. I then backed it up with a good night's rest, so I tried to keep the emotions at bay as much as possible and then went through with the interview. Your turn. Try to go out this week and put yourself in a situation where maybe you're a little bit nervous, and try to put yourself in that situation where you've got to use your Spanish even though you don't feel totally comfortable doing so. And to prepare for that situation, try to make a promise to someone that you're going to do it. And secondly, try and be well rested. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe and put a comment below. Give us a like and let us know whether this tip was helpful for you. Hasta pronto.